In many cases, Western countries, through media and diplomatic channels, present African institutions as incapable of managing conflicts, thereby justifying foreign-led missions. Why is Africa's own role in solving its own conflicts so often sidelined, even though it has the resources, the institutions, and the people to do it? Hello, and welcome back to One Africa Show, where we bring you the stories, solutions, and strategies that matter most for the future of Africa. I'm your host, Patrick Newman, and today we continue our impactful series, A Seat at the Table, Africa's Struggle for Representation. This series aims to uncover the challenges and triumphs that African nations face as they seek to regain control of their destiny on the global stage. Before we dive into today's critical discussion, I want to take a moment to remind you to subscribe, like, and share this podcast with your friends, colleagues, and networks. Your support is crucial in spreading these important conversations far and wide, helping us amplify Africa's voice in global dialogues. And don't forget to stay tuned for the launch of our upcoming book, A Seat at the Table, Africa's Struggle for Representation, which will dive even deeper into these themes. Now, let's jump into today's topic. Today we continue with Chapter 4, Conflict Resolution. Why are African wars solved by outsiders? When we talk about African conflicts, it often feels like the continent's challenges are being solved by outsiders. From the United Nations, UN, to NATO and European Union, EU forces, the history of conflict resolution in Africa is littered with foreign-led peacekeeping missions. But this raises an important question. Why is Africa's own role in solving its own conflicts so often sidelined, even though it has the resources, the institutions, and the people to do it? For decades, Africa's conflicts, often civil wars and interethnic struggles, have attracted global attention. The reasons are obvious: humanitarian crises, geopolitical interests, and economic stakes in resource. The UN, for example, has deployed peacekeeping operations from the Congo crisis in the early 1960s to the Rwandan genocide in 1994 to the ongoing South Sudan conflict. Similarly, NATO-led missions in Libya, 2011, and French military interventions in Mali, 2013, highlight the continued reliance on Western military involvement in African conflicts. But the question remains, are these foreign interventions the best solution for Africa? While some missions have had short-term success in de-escalating violence, the long-term effectiveness of foreign-led interventions is highly contested. Many of these missions are burdened by bureaucratic inefficiency, allegations of misconduct, and a lack of integration with local governance systems. Additionally, foreign-led interventions often reflect the strategic interests of the foreign powers involved rather than addressing the root causes of African conflicts or empowering local structures for self-governance. The critical issue here is the marginalization of African-led solutions. Despite having its own conflict resolution mechanisms such as the African Union, AU, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, Africa's own institutions are often sidelined in favor of foreign interventions. Why is this? Let's break down some of the reasons behind this marginalization. 1. Funding and resource constraints. African institutions like the AU and regional bodies often lack the financial and logistical resources to conduct large-scale peacekeeping operations. While the UN, EU, and other Western powers are well-resourced, African-led missions rely heavily on external funding, which comes with conditions that limit African autonomy in decision-making. 2. Political will and unity. The political fragmentation within the AU and regional bodies weakens their ability to respond effectively to conflicts. Disagreements among African leaders, competing national interests, and the hesitation to intervene in the sovereignty of member states often delay or prevent decisive action. This lack of unity among African leaders is a significant obstacle to the continent's ability to effectively resolve conflicts on its own. Third, international preferences for Western-led interventions. Western powers often prefer interventions that align with their own geopolitical interests. In many cases, Western countries, through media and diplomatic channels, present African institutions as incapable of managing conflicts, thereby justifying foreign-led missions. This narrative of African inefficiency and weakness contributes to the continued reliance on Western interventions, sidelining African initiatives. Fourth, dependence on external military support. Many African governments rely on Western military aid and training, which creates a dependency that limits their ability to assert independent security strategies. As a result, African nations often find it difficult to manage their own peace-building efforts, further diminishing the credibility of African-led conflict resolution initiatives. One of the often overlooked contributors to African conflict is the international arms trade, which plays a significant role in fueling wars on the continent. Both Western and Eastern powers are key suppliers of arms, with the US, Russia, China, and European countries providing weapons to various factions, from governments to rebel groups. These weapons intensify conflicts and make diplomatic resolutions even more challenging. The arms trade creates an environment where corporate profiteering thrives. Private arms manufacturers and their lobbyists work to ensure continued arms sales to conflict zones, disregarding the humanitarian consequences. Furthermore, despite international treaties like the Arms Trade Treaty, ATT, enforcement remains weak, allowing weapons to flow into the hands of militant groups, often through corruption, smuggling, or proxy warfare. To effectively address conflicts, Africa must focus on strengthening arms control policies and reducing its dependency on foreign military supplies. By investing in domestic defense industries and improving transparency in military procurement, Africa can begin to regain control over its own security. Now let's look at some case studies to understand how foreign-led peacekeeping has impacted Africa's conflicts and where African-led solutions could have made a difference. 1. Rwanda, 1994 genocide. The failure of international intervention in Rwanda is one of the most devastating examples of the neglect of African conflict resolution. During the genocide, the UN and Western powers failed to intervene decisively, despite clear signs of impending mass violence. The Rwandan Patriotic Front, RPF, led by Paul Kagame, ultimately ended the genocide without significant international military assistance. This demonstrated the effectiveness of African-led solutions when given the autonomy and support to act. In the aftermath, Rwanda focused on self-reliance in peace-building, investing in homegrown justice systems like Gacaca courts and prioritizing national reconciliation without heavy dependence on foreign actors. Rwanda's post-genocide journey is a clear example of the potential of African leadership in peace building. 2. South Sudan. South Sudan gained independence in 2011 but plunged into civil war in 2013 due to political rivalry and ethnic tensions. Despite efforts by the African Union and Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, peace agreements have been repeatedly undermined by external interests, especially those tied to oil. The lack of consistent funding and unified African intervention has prolonged instability. The situation underscores the need for more robust and independent African mediation strategies, rather than relying on external actors with competing agendas. Third, Democratic Republic of Congo, ongoing conflict. The Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, has been in a state of conflict for decades. Despite the deployment of the UN peacekeeping mission, MONUSCO, their impact has been limited due to bureaucracy, lack of local integration, and allegations of misconduct. A more effective solution would have involved empowering regional bodies like the AU and focusing on economic reforms alongside community-led conflict resolution. Now, to reduce reliance on foreign interventions, Africa must adopt conflict resolution models that prioritize local leadership, economic development, and diplomatic solutions tailored to the continent's unique challenges. Some key recommendations include: 1. Strengthening AU peacekeeping capabilities. Africa must collectively invest in the African Standby Force, ASF, ensuring it is adequately funded and equipped to respond to conflicts independently without excessive reliance on external actors. 2. Enhancing regional cooperation. Strengthening regional organizations like ECOWAS and IGAD can lead to more proactive, context-specific, and rapid conflict resolution efforts. By addressing disputes early, these bodies can prevent conflicts from escalating into full-scale wars. 3. Prioritizing economic stability as a conflict prevention strategy. Addressing the economic grievances that fuel conflicts, such as poverty, unemployment, and inequality, can reduce the likelihood of violence. Investing in sustainable development will address the root causes of instability. 4. Investing in traditional and community-based justice systems. Encouraging the use of indigenous conflict resolution methods, such as mediation by elders and customary courts, can lead to sustainable peace agreements rooted in local cultures and traditions. 5. Regulating the arms trade. African nations should strengthen arms control mechanisms and increase diplomatic pressure on international suppliers to limit the influx of weapons that fuel conflicts. In conclusion, Africa's reliance on foreign-led conflict resolution has often led to prolonged instability and a lack of self-determination in peace-building efforts. While external interventions may provide short-term solutions, sustainable peace requires African-led strategies. By investing in regional cooperation, economic empowerment, and strong governance, Africa can take control of its own peace and security future. Thank you for joining me today on One Africa Show. Remember to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. And stay tuned for the launch of our upcoming book, A Seat at the Table, Africa's Struggle for Representation. Let's keep pushing for Africa's voice to be heard loud and clear.